Alright, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan. I'm here with my good friend Adam.
Hey.
And, today we're just going to be kind of shooting the shit and talking about each other's watch collections, and, covering different types of watch collectors that, we both come across in our, time in this community. And, we're going to talk about, guys that we like, and then, and then types of collectors that we don't believe that you should emulate. So without further ado, let's get into it. Adam,
Yes.
what are you wearing on your wrist today?
Right now, I have my pride and joy. It's my Longines Spirit. It's a 37 millimeter. I've had it for about 5-ish months now, I'd say.
5 months? Nice.
Yeah, because you remember when I first got it.
Yeah.
And I was super stoked to come and show it to you. I had been wanting to get a date just. And just because financially, I started looking into Longines because budget-wise, it's a much better route. And you're still getting that Swiss quality, so you're not really being sold short on anything.
Yeah.
And so I went ahead with this, and it costed about half the price of what you'd be spending on a date just. And in terms of looks and quality, it's everything that you would expect out of like a nice Swiss watch. So
it's automatic?
Correct. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it's automatic movement, which is a big part of what I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's actually the first automatic I'd even bought.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of the watches in your collection are like manual.
Yeah, definitely. No, the first handful of watches I all got was manual, and it was somewhat intentional that I was doing it that way.
Yeah, why do you go for mostly manual watches in your collection?
For me, it was almost part of paying homage or paying respect. It's like I had to earn my step into buying automatics. Honestly, that's where I was coming from with it. It's like so many people just go out and buy a smartwatch or buy like kind of a bullshit, cheap watch. And for me, it was like, well, when I first started getting into watches and watchmaking and all that, it was a big part of it for me was looking at the history of where we come from and what we've made. Yeah. And manual watches were the standard for so long, and I just had the deepest appreciation for that. So that's why the first few I bought were all manual.
I think that's really significant. I think a lot of people that get into this hobby, they may be getting into it for the hype and not as much for the history and the heritage that comes along with all of these brands.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't realize that all of the hype that surrounds these products, like these commercial products, it's built on like this long-lasting legacy of innovation and engineering and history that goes into each piece, regardless of the brand.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about Longines before getting this myself. But then in my search for that watch that I wanted to get, that was going to be my first automatic, and finding Longines and learning about them and just how great of a company they are and what they represent in the Swiss watch world. Yeah. Now I'm a massive fan of them.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited to buy more watches from them.
Yeah.
So
definitely. What do you feel like their place is in the industry right now?
I'd say I wouldn't regard them as budget. I know I've said quite a handful of times now they're a budget watch company, but I'd say in regards to, you could almost say a best bang for your buck. Yeah,
great value.
Yeah, where it's still very high quality watches that you're getting. Hence why I say you're still getting good Swiss movements out of them, and good finished products. But at the end of the day, you're not walking into a store blowing $10K on a watch from Longines. Yeah. It feels more where your dollars go to good use.
Yeah, they go farther.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So
that's very cool. Yeah, it's nice to know that there are brands out there that that aren't asking for crazy prices for standard functionality.
Well, and that's a whole nother topic too. Is nowadays where you have like you were saying about the hype of certain companies and the hype of certain brands, where you'll have, say, Rolex or AP or some of these big name brands that you look at their prices over the last decade or so, and it's just ticking up and up. And it's like, well, where's the cause for that?
I'm a huge fan of Omega, and they recently raised their prices. So when I first got into Omega, I remember, you know, everybody knows the Speedmaster, and I was looking at the Speedmasters, and I think the Sapphire Sandwich, that was the one I wanted to go for. It was $7,200.
Yeah.
And then, you know, keep in mind, I've only been into Omega since like November of 2022. It's now August of 23. So it hasn't even been a full year, but they've raised their prices. They've raised the price for the Sapphire Speedmaster by $800, and now that thing retails for like $8,000, and it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example of it, and part of exactly the reason why I chose to buy this, because Longines isn't one of those brands.
Yeah.
Where they're like, hey, we need to take it up and up.
Yeah.
Ideally, I would have gone out and bought a Datejust, because that always been like one of my dream watches.
Yeah, I think one day it could happen. It'll definitely happen though.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, it's just a matter of when I find the right time and place to get a watch like that.
Absolutely.
You know, but as of right now, like me personally, I'm not a major Rolex fanboy. You know, as I may have been when I was younger, for some of the reasons we're covering. Yeah. You know, it's like, hey, don't you think that damages your reputation as a company a little bit, where you pander, you know, to making more money? So
I'm like, I'll be honest, I'm in a huge like Rolex phase right now, but
which I know you are, so it's funny saying that.
Yeah, it's okay though. I mean, like, it's two mindsets coming together. Like I see the way I see Rolex, and I think we're getting a little bit off topic here, but you know, the way I see Rolex is they're obviously out for a profit. They're trying to like keep their company going. And they have their ways of doing that by, you know, either not like deliberately restricting supply, but like managing supply appropriately so that the value around their watches can be retained.
Definitely.
Yeah. And you know, and then keeping the prices high is its own kind of marketing tool as well.
The analogy I would put to it is Rolex is one of those companies that's like the Ferrari of the watch world.
You think so?
I would say that, you know, where they're very big on like image and what you said, you know, supply and what they put out. And Ferrari as a car, you know, that's a lot of their brand image. And that's what I'm saying. It boils down to brand image.
Yes.
What they portray and convey. And that's why Rolex does such a good job in the market, because they put so much into advertising.
Yeah, and it even comes down to like the clients that they choose to even sell to. Like if you walk into a Rolex boutique or a Rolex AD, and you are wearing, you know, you're wearing 3-day-old basketball shorts, you're wearing a tank top that
you'll get profiled.
You're gonna get profiled. You know, like you need to walk into one of those stores correct if you ever want to have a hope of getting a watch sold.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that to some of you viewing this, you know, you may regard that as unfair, but that's just the standard that they choose to uphold for their business, and you know, that's just how they choose to run things. They want people that they feel are deserving of their watches to be able to wear them. So definitely. Sometimes you just gotta play that game. That's just the way it is with them, because it goes back to what you were saying about image. They extend that out to like their clientele. You know, their clientele has to be able to fit a certain image too. You know,
and that's not even talking about brands that you have even further past.
Yeah, even further past that.
That are lesser known in the first place.
Yeah, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, like all those, Vacheron, FP Journe, like all those brands are even harder to get than Rolex, and you know, they're not even approachable. I don't think they're approachable for guys like us.
Exactly.
Right
no, definitely not.
Yeah,
someday.
Yeah, two moderately paid military guys. I don't think we're ever. I don't know if we're gonna.
Someday we'll get there.
One day, hopefully. Yeah, maybe if this YouTube channel gets more views. Yeah. But let's move on real quick. Let's try and cover your watch collection, starting from
order I bought them. You think?
Let's go from least expensive to most expensive.
Okay. Well, by far least expensive.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it a piece of shit, because this watch actually means a lot to me.
Yeah. This
is a little Armatron digital watch. I got this for myself in boot camp, actually. What we were talking about right before we started this video is that when you ship off to boot camp, they don't let you have any watches or any way of telling the time. You know, you're always running on whatever your instructor's time is. And so for 2.5 months straight, you have no clue, you know, other than what they're telling you.
No, yeah, they literally tell you when to breathe.
Exactly. And so as someone, because I had gotten into the watch world and had an interest in that, and for me, more general, you know, it's the respect for time and things like that, and being time management. Not being able to have a watch for me is like almost a sense of like you feel naked without it. You know.
Yeah. And punctuality it's a huge thing in the fleet, you know.
Absolutely.
If you're 1 minute late to something, or if you're on time for something, you're late. So
absolutely,
you better be able to keep track of time.
Yeah, and so the whole reason I got this is because, you know, right in the closing weeks of my time there, they're like, all right, you guys can go out and get yourself a watch now. So all that's available is these, you know, cheap little digital ones.
Yeah.
But for me, this has been like my field watch, you know, that I take out and just beat up. You can see the band on it there is, I used to clasp down a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
the dirt and all the grime.
Yeah. No efforts put in to keep this thing clean. I just let it sit around and do its thing.
Yeah, look at that scratch on the crystal.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think I've worn this maybe on my Stairway to Heaven hike since being here. So taking it up mountains plenty of times, you know, just beat it up and have fun with it. Absolutely. You know, as you should with a cheap watch like this.
Yeah. Don't spare it. You know.
Exactly. So yeah, that's definitely by far the cheapest.
Okay. Nice.
Moving on.
Let's put these back on the table so I don't fall over.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, I'd say the next cheapest would be this, which is a newer watch. It's the Moon Swatch.
Heard a lot about this one.
So extremely popular, in very high demand, and pretty much little supply for the handful of months there that it's been out. This is the Pluto model. I got it just purely based on color. I was going for fun. I just wanted something fun, but not too ostentatious, you know, and loud looking.
Yeah. I kind of like the muted gray.
Yeah.
With the burgundy. It just
definitely.
It just resonates very well. You know, it's not like, hey, look at me, but it's like, I'm not taking myself too seriously.
Yeah. Part of me had been wanting to get the Mars one as well, because on the dial itself, you got little rocket ships, you know, and it's all bright red.
That's cool.
So maybe if I were to get a second one of these, I would get the Mars one, you know, because it's a little bit more fun. But that was the whole reason I got this in the first place, you know, is my buddy had been wanting one too, and we kind of just started collecting them because he got a few, and then we had another friend get one.
Nice.
I mean, it's like we all had one of the different planets, so it's just fun for all of us to each be like, hey, which planet do you have? you know? And so I went with Pluto. But
have you seen those moon swatches with like they have the gold seconds hand?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, apparently like Swatch has been releasing those too, and they've been like doing like limited drops across the world. Yeah. Whenever there's like it's weird. Whenever there's like a full moon or something, they like release a.
Really, I hope they keep making these. I really do, because it's, for me, it's, you get the same design and the look of an Omega, you know, and sure, the name is on there too if you care about that much, but just having that iconic design at a price point that's, you know, only a few $100s, and it's the whole point behind these watches is they're supposed to be fun and you enjoy them. This
watch is, I think this watch, there's been a lot of controversy around the Moon Swatch.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, most of the criticism of it has come from like the quality of the
you can't take an elitist attitude towards this watch. You can't take the attitude of like, I'm only buying super high quality fancy watches.
Yeah,
that's not what this is meant to be.
No.
You know, you're meant to get it and be like, oh, this is really cool, and I didn't have to break the bank for it.
Yeah,
awesome. You know, that's all it is, and it's Swatch at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Swatch is good. I have nothing against them, but
absolutely. No, you're right. I would say though that if you are someone who's budget conscious and you don't want to you want to get a watch but you don't want to break the bank and you want to make sure that it actually is going to last you a long time, I would say like maybe go for a G-Shock instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to spend, $260 or something like that on one of these.
Because even for some people, $260 on a watch is a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it is also very cool. And frankly,
if you have the money to spare,
yeah,
this is the watch you should get.
Yeah. I honestly do not hate this watch. I think what Omega and Swatch did, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, there's some quality issues with it, but again, like what you're saying, you have to go into it with a fresh and open mindset.
Definitely, you can't be judgmental of it.
Yeah. And when you do, and you can let go and you can just have fun with it, because this is a cool looking piece. You gotta admit. And I'll throw some close-up shots of it on there as well.
I don't know if you've seen this yourself, but even on the back here, they always say what the planet is, and then have an image of it, and then I'm sure it's real small right here, but you'll see more of it later.
I'll try to get a picture of that before we finish as I'm editing.
All right, and then going from there, all right, well, in terms of price, I have these two, which I paid the same amount for, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought that one would be more expensive.
You would think. So, and in my right hand here, I don't know the exact model or reference number of it, but this is a 1950s Omega manual line dress watch. And this was first watch I bought. I got this for $500. And then this one in my right hand is my Hamilton, also manual line. It's the khaki field. I believe it's 36, 37 mil, one of the two. Also costs the exact same price. Now, I would say this one, just rolling into this one now on its own, I'd say this is definitely appreciated in value since I've gotten it, which I'm very happy about. This obviously the strap and everything isn't original. The only replacement that's been made on it is the crown. Otherwise, because it would normally have the Omega. Yeah,
is that like a random stock piece?
Yeah, it's just a standard replacement crown, which I mean, some purists would say maybe that takes away from the value.
Probably, yeah.
But at the end of the day, the dial, as you'll probably see later on, it's a very nice, almost yellowish kind of cream color, and it's rose gold. For the hands, and it's got this really nice sub-second on it, and it's almost like a pinstripe kind of look to it. And the dial is what sold me on this watch.
Yeah, this dial is fantastic. It's everything you would want in like a vintage style watch. Manual line, beautiful patina on the dial. Again, I'll put it close up here, but showing this. Trying to catch the light more, but beautiful patina on the dial, and then the rose gold hour markers, with no lume. They just really bring this watch together. It's so insanely beautiful, and it's small too, so it's the perfect dress watch.
Oh yeah, it fits very small on the wrist, and it's funny. I've for a very long time always been aware of the fact that my wrists are smaller, and so. Part of why I got this is I was looking for something that was, in the mid 30s, 35, 34, around that, just to ensure it would look fine on me. And then I get it and I see, oh, this is even small on my wrist. But it plays into what you said, that's what you get with a lot of these older dress watches from the 50s and 60s, is they were thin, small dials. Meant to be subtle but still elegant and good looking in, say, a suit or whatever you were wearing.
Yeah, even some of the sports watches for the time, like freaking the Oyster Perpetuals that Tenzing Norgay and Sir Edmund Hillary brought up Mount Everest. Like the prototypes for the Rolex Explorer. Those were like 36, 34 millimeters, if I remember correctly. Those are basically the same size as this watch, and they summited a whole mountain, the tallest mountain in the world with those things. So like, when people say like, "Oh, that watch is too small for a man to wear,"
absolutely, there's no need for stuff like that. The whole sentiment towards watches being so massive is only a modern thing. Yeah,
it's a very recent trend in the past few years, and I think it's cyclical. It's probably going to go back. We're probably going to trend back towards smaller watches in the future. In fact, I think we might already be, but yeah, it's not really a thing that I see lasting. You know, the big watches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first watch. I'm really proud of this. I only wear it strictly on special occasions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's just, for me, this watch means a lot. The whole reason I bought it, because I had gotten into watches when I was in high school, towards the end of high school, and I graduated high school, and I was like, well, since I have this new passion of mine, how do I treat myself?
Mm-hmm.
And so for graduating, my gift to myself was this watch.
It's a great graduation gift.
Yeah. So, and I'll always have this for my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So yeah, definitely by far one of my favorite pieces that I have.
Speaks to how good of Omega is as a brand. I know I was talking smack about them earlier with raising their prices, but at the end of the day, I think they really just knock it out of the park as well.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like most of the higher end Swiss watch brands, like you may pay the prices you do for them, but you also you're going to get what you pay for too.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had on whether or not they're on par with Rolex or above them, and I would say they're definitely on par, if not, you know, pushing past them a little bit.
Yeah, I think Omega really, in certain aspects of Omega, really gives Rolex a run for its money.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially in the price aspect of things, you know, because you'll not. I mean, as you were saying earlier about that Omega, where it's like, sure, they increase prices too. You know, that's what you're going to get with such a big name like that. But compared to the prices you get Rolex is at, I'd say they're still somewhat more affordable than what you may pay for a Rolex.
Something I like about Rolex, though, and which has surprised me, is that, you know, hopefully I don't jinx this, you know, fingers crossed, but they actually haven't raised their prices as drastically as Omega did. They're still more expensive, obviously, but they only had one price increase, and that was in the beginning of the year. And since then, their prices have remained stable. You know, and one thing I do think about Rolex that they do have over Omega is, again, that brand imaging that we were just talking about. Like, their collections are more limited, but they're also a bit more straightforward. You know, you're not gonna get sensory overload scrolling through Rolex's catalog as you might with Omega.
That's that's for sure.
Yeah, but that's all an aside. So, tell me about this watch.
Okay, so the other one that's kind of my mid-level cost. This is my Hamilton. It's the khaki field that I mentioned a little bit ago. Also manual line. This is being worn more than any other watch of mine.
Yeah.
And part of it's due to the convenience of this strap. So it's
NATO style. Yeah.
It's a green NATO strap with brown leather, you know, kind of binding it together. And I bought this at Torno downtown here in Honolulu.
Yep, same place I got my Explorer too.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's nuts that place isn't even open anymore.
I know, right? Yeah, they closed.
We were lucky enough to show up and get a few watches before they went.
Seriously. Yeah.
But yeah, I love this watch so much. I wear it out of it's definitely like a heritage kind of piece for me, because this is the exact model that, you know, your GI back in Vietnam would have been issued.
Yeah.
So for me,
World War II even, actually. I think Hamilton made watches for GIs in World War II as well.
They've been around for quite some time, and now today, at the bottom of the watch it says Swiss made, and that's because the rights to Hamilton were eventually sold to a Swiss company. I don't know if it's ETA that makes their movements. It might be.
I believe it is ETA.
Yeah.
And then I think the Swatch Group owns Hamilton.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because I think Longines, Omega, and Hamilton are all subsidiaries of the Swatch Group, I believe. Yeah.
So obviously it's not, you know, the model you would have been getting back in the 40s or 50s. But I take it as almost a positive, you know, because you're getting a Swiss movement.
Yeah.
Coupled with the fact that you have the homage and the heritage behind the history of this company. It's an American company at its core.
Yeah. It's funny, I was talking about this watch in a previous video of mine.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that, like, this is a manually wound watch, so you do have to interact with it every day. But it's also got 80 hours of power reserve because of the movement technology inside of it. but it also has that vintage aesthetic that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Where it has a history behind it. It has a legacy to it. And if you're somebody that cares about that and wants to pay homage to the people that came before, especially because we're Marines, we care about tradition and history.
Hence why I got it in the first place.
Exactly. Like this is just what you need if that's what you're looking for.
Exactly. And as much as it costs $500, which is, for most people probably pretty expensive. For a watch. Mm-hmm. For me, it's like the perfect price for a watch that I know will last my whole life. And has that meaning. Yeah.
As long as you're not like being, absolutely careless with it, it's definitely going to last you a very, very long time. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I still like playing the game in my head of whether or not I actually want to wear this out in the field with me, because it's definitely not, as much of a beater as this $20 one would be. Yeah. But, it always makes me think of guys that were out there, day in and day out wearing this exact model,
Insane.
So, yeah. And it's so fitting. Just for me personally, I like wearing it in uniform. It works really well.
It does. We wear Woodland Marpat in Garrison, and frankly, the color palette it's exactly the same color palette as our Woodland Marpat.
Hence what I was saying about the strap there, the colors of it. It's just absolutely perfect. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely get the most use, actual day-to-day use out of this watch.
Nice.
And with good reason.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's move on to your last one.
Yeah. Last watch would be, this is the Nomos Club 36 millimeter right here. Also,
beautiful.
Manual one. Surprise, surprise. So I got this watch about, I'd say 3.5 years ago. I bought it not too long after I bought that Omega that I was showing earlier. I kind of got hooked as soon as I bought the Omega and was like, I need more of these. Yeah. But I wanted something modern, something newer, and that's kind of why I went with this. And it's German made. It's the only German made watch I have. But I spent a lot of time looking into Nomos itself previous to buying this watch. And through doing that, I learned a lot about the city glass shoot that these watches are made in, where they're based.
Yeah, what makes glass shoot or glass shoots? I don't know.
I don't know. We're not German.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're freaking American. Okay. Yeah, give us a break here. But yeah, what makes that place so special in terms of its watchmaking?
So and that it's just that, in learning about, because coming up as a kid, it's like Swiss watches. That's all you hear about. Yeah. And then so I'm trying to learn more about watches at the time of buying this, because I'm just still getting myself into learning about them and all these different companies and where they're from and what they do and represent. And that's where I found out about this. And the history behind this town in Germany, glass shoot, is that it's almost similar to a lot of these Swiss companies where it's been based there in this town for so long. And if you look into German watches, you'll find a lot of them tend to have shops that have been running here in this little town in Germany for so long.
Yeah. It's like centuries.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
So it's just cool to see, little tidbits of detail like that. And I got it because it has a fun look to it. I mean, even the name, it's called the Club. Yeah. And then when you'll see later on, more detailed, that on the dial itself, it's got little orange markings on the hands, and it goes really well with on the leather strap too. Yeah. Some of the threading is the same orange kind of color, but at the same time, even though it has this fun look, it's got the shine and feel of a very nice dress watch. Yeah. You could still wear this with a suit and dress up really well with it, and it's not, selling itself short in any sense. No. By having those little bits of detail.
I think this is honestly this is one of those watches that, artfully, it artfully straddles the line between simplicity, but also immaculate attention to detail. Yeah. Because you're talking about these things like the color of the stitching, the strap color, and how it complements the color of the hands. Are the hands blue, by the way? Is this like Is that
No.
on the hands?
No, it actually isn't.
Oh, well, even still like that. The orange accents on the hands and then the seconds around the rim. It's just really like it all just comes together into one conglomeration, and it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, well, and you talking about that made me remember it's the whole design concept around this, and it's been a contemporary design in Germany for a long time. It's called Bauhaus.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
No,
but,
that's it. Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what drew me to Nomos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is seeing their quality of product that they make. But
Yeah.
just if you were to go on their website right now and look at the designs of all their watches, they all have this fun look to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they can still be really professional.
Yeah.
And really serious looking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so being able to do both of those at once, you know, I really am drawn to that style of design. It's amazing.
And it takes like. So I was introduced to the idea of Bauhaus design through not watches but a pen company called Lamy.
Mm-hmm.
My mother owned this pen. It was called a Lamy 2000. It was like probably the most simple fountain pen aesthetically that you could look at, but like, it was also a Bauhaus design. And when I saw that pen and when I look at Nomos watches, you kind of have to appreciate the level of thought and attention that actually is required to make something as aesthetically pleasing as that, you know? Because like again, you're playing a balancing act when you try to simplify something down but also like give it enough personality to stand on its own two legs, you know? You know, you can't just strip a watch of everything down to its bare elements and then like slap your name on it and call it good, you know? It takes a bit more thought than that. And Nomos plays that game very well. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's I'd say similar in terms of pricing. Ooh.
Nice dog. Freaking dog hair.
It's
the wind that's like coming through here, you know? It's just like
that's
getting
funny.
the dog hair everywhere. Yeah.
It's as a brand, I'd say Nomos is another one of those ones, kind of like I was talking about Longines earlier, where you know, if you wanted to go the German route instead of the Swiss route, price-wise, you're not ever going to be breaking the bank with this. I think this was right around, I think $1,300 or $1,500 for this, which for a nice dress watch that'll last you your whole life.
Yeah,
that is a fantastic price. Still kind of expensive, but still.
As long as you get that watch serviced,
exactly,
when it needs to get serviced, and you change out the strap every few years, like because it's going to wear down as leather.
Of course,
then it'll last you forever.
Yeah. So I never even kind of really had that thought of comparison, but like these two brands as a whole, you know, I definitely say I probably represent, you know, Nomos and Longines for what they stand for.
Oh, if we get famous enough, then one day maybe we can get sponsored by those guys.
Yeah. If you ever need me, I'll be your ambassador.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Longines, look out.
Yeah.
You got new ambassador coming.
So yeah, that's the whole of my collection at this point. I know it's pretty simple. But it's well-rounded, which is what I was going for, and I've told you this. It is well-rounded,
yeah. But there's a theme going on there too.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I lean into the dressier kinds of watches. Clearly, a lot of manual lines. I mean, going forward in terms of like what next I'd like to buy, I've told you this also. Maybe like a diver of the sort.
Yeah.
Because that's really what I'm missing at this point. You know, I've got every kind of watch. You know, dress watch, nice casual watches, sport ones.
Yep.
But a diver is still what I lack.
Yeah, you've got like it looks like, you know, looking at your collection as a whole, you've got the classic dress, you've got like a super expendable beater.
Yeah.
The very like cherished vintage, and then your classic tool watch, but I think you are missing a diver. Like, not that it's a box you absolutely need to check off. Like, nobody needs these things, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, you know, we're collectors. We just want them.
Exactly.
And you know, if you want to round it out and make it, if you want to round it out even more, then I think the diver is definitely the way to go. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and a big part of why, I'll admit, being so hesitant to buying a diver is what I mentioned earlier.
The small wrists.
Having a small wrist, you know, which is a struggle known for anyone trying to get a diver. And I've seen certain models, and I've talked to plenty of people that recommend certain things, saying, you know, hey, and I think even you've mentioned certain models to me before. And something I've found too is sometimes, you know, even like with this Rolex you were showing me,
Mhm.
I'll try it on my wrist and be like, wow, this fits really well.
Yeah.
Or looks much smaller than I think. Oh, what's the case size? And you say it's a 41 mil.
Yeah.
You know, so I just got to go out there and try out some watches. I'll find one.
Black. I know what you need though. So, well,
Tudor.
Tudor Black Bay 54. So
Yeah.
not the Black Bay 58. Black Bay 58, 39 millimeters. So it was bigger than all these watches. But the Black Bay 54, they brought it down to 37 millimeters.
Okay.
Yeah, and
You said 37?
yeah, 37
Oh, that'd
millimeters.
be perfect.
Yeah, so
That's exactly what I
that's your
need.
watch, man.
Yeah.
That's what you should get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know my next watch.
Yeah.
So you know my collection and what I'm getting next.
It just came to mind, like, because you said small wrist, and I was like, hang on, what's a dive watch with small? It's smaller. Oh, it was the one that was just released. It came out. The Black Bay 54 came out at Watches and Wonders in March earlier this year, and like it's been making waves across the watch community, at least for guys that love like sports watches, which is most of the watch community, and it's been getting like positive reviews across the board. So I think that's
I'll
I think
definitely
it's a
have to
great
look
choice.
into it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shall we roll into your watches or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. 'Cause this is a long video. At this
Yeah,
point.
it's already a long video. Let's pause it here. I'm gonna
Okay.
refill my tea. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. Freaking. Sometimes. Okay, we're back again, and we're gonna go over my collection now. We just had to take a little break to, get some tea.
More tea.
But
Very necessary.
yeah, indeed. It's a bit too late in the day for coffee. It's 4:06 p.m. So we're gonna be up all night if we have any more coffee in our lives. But starting off again from least expensive to most expensive, we will. Which one?
That one.
Yeah, the G-Shock. Yeah, the G-Shock was definitely the least expensive. I was confused for a second, but so this is, I don't even know the reference number on this either because G-Shock has a million reference numbers.
Yeah.
But
it's a G-Shock.
It's a G-Shock, but it's solar powered. It has got atomic time, but being in Hawaii, I've tried to program it to atomic time before.
Yeah.
And like sync it up with the radio towers, but it doesn't freaking work. So I just have to treat it like a regular quartz watch and reset it every few months.
Yeah.
This is honestly this is definitely one of the lesser worn watches in my collection. I thought I would be taking it out to the field more often, but I just haven't.
Was that the point of buying this one?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's funny. Every time I have gone out to the field lately, I've always worn a more expensive watch.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that this watch couldn't stand up to that. It absolutely could.
Yeah.
But every time I've gone out to the field, I've always worn a more expensive watch, and this watch has kind of just been.
I like the color of it. It's all just blacked out.
Yeah, it's definitely much more. It's the most tactical watch in the collection. If I was ever to go out and do something freaking serious, where I want it to be as low visibility as possible.
You gotta be a sneaky squirrel with this.
Yeah, that would be the watch I'd probably put on my wrist.
Oh, and then if you were to pull this back, does it just pop out the back? Do you see that?
Oh,
you would have to unscrew it.
You definitely got to unscrew the back. But it has 200 meters of water resistance, which is nice too.
That's
So
solid.
yeah, definitely a tool watch. Mostly I use that watch for going to the gym with. I take it to the gym. I run with it, and then I head into the sauna with it.
So it really just gets used as like your day-to-day workout kind of sports
Pretty
watch.
much, yeah. Pretty much, it's my actual sports watch.
Yeah. Legitimate sport.
Yeah. I have an Apple Watch which I do sometimes use as well, but
Those don't matter.
Those don't matter. Yeah. If there's one watch that we think is okay to talk trash on, it's going to be the Apple Watch.
We were joking about it right before we started this back up, and then I was like, all right, this is my entire collection, and then he mentions his Apple Watch, and I'm like, oh shit, I have one of those too.
Yeah.
So
we didn't bring them, but it's just a thing. Like, forget the Apple Watches.
Exactly. Everyone's
Not
got
in the
one,
conversation
so
right
does
now.
it even qualify?
Yeah.
All right. What'd be next for you? I'm guessing this fossil here.
Yeah. So this fossil, and this has got a very long history, and it's extremely beat up. I've talked about this one on my channel before, but
I've never seen this one of yours.
yeah. So this one is called a Townsman, and it's got the Jubilee style bracelet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of band stretch in there because I've been wearing.
I was gonna say this thing's beat.
Yeah, I've been wearing that thing since 2015. And in my last video, I was saying The only times that I've ever worn that, or the only times that I didn't wear that watch was when I was doing jujitsu, which you're not supposed to wear jewelry during jujitsu because you could possibly deglove your hand
Of course.
or destroy your watch or injure your partner.
Yeah, a little bit big on me. But
Yeah, that watch is 45 millimeters in diameter.
yeah, definitely not made for my wrists.
No.
I see what you mean about just the wear and tear on this. It's
Yeah.
clearly loose.
Yeah, the only times I didn't wear it was during jujitsu, when I was lifting weights, or when I was going distance running.
Yeah.
It was the only times I didn't wear it, and otherwise it was constant on my wrist. So I took it hiking, I took it to the beach, I took it up mountains, I took it shooting.
All right, so you just did everything with it.
Yeah, this watch got caught in the prop wash from a helicopter when I was at a refueling point once. So when helicopters are landing at a spot, like they create a lot of prop wash that blows a lot of air down and kicks up all the dust and stuff on the ground up.
Mm.
And this watch got smacked by a bunch of freaking dirt on the ground. So this was really beat up. Like you can see, there's scratches on the crystal.
It's definitely one you want to keep though, because it has so much story behind it.
Yeah,
so much history with it.
Yeah,
that's awesome that you have this.
mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's a fossil, sure.
Yeah, it's a fossil.
But all the memories and stories you have with it are what matter.
Yeah, it was one of my first watches, and for 7 years it was my only watch.
Yeah.
It was a gift from my mother shortly after I enlisted. I had just gotten out of the schoolhouse. I had got back to California. I was on leave,
mm-hmm.
and the present that she had given me before, it was like this quartz-powered fossil chronograph, and that one had failed.
Yeah.
So we went to the fossil store, and I was like, okay, so the quartz fossil failed. I need an automatic instead. Maybe that'll be a bit more reliable. And I settled on this one. I sacrificed the functionality, but I got this, and it lasted me for 7 years.
So, what triggered your interest in watches? Was having this one and making those memories with it, was that what spurred it, or had you already been into watches?
It was kind of a thing with my grandfather. He's a doctor, and he has been collecting watches most of his adult life.
Yeah.
I don't know everything that's in his collection, but the stuff that he does have is pretty dang good. He collects a lot of he collects everything. He collects Omega, Citizen, Seiko.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a few pieces from Breitling and whatnot, like some nap timers. But
yeah.
He collects just about everything. He's a true watch enthusiast. He has been into it from the beginning. And, he doesn't discriminate based on price or brand name or anything like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been inspired by him. I've always wanted to be somewhat like him, and part of that was in watches, the attitude that he takes towards them. Not like being a snob about it, but definitely has an appreciation for the things that are higher end as well. And that's kind of how I got into watches. So once I started making my own money,
yeah.
Again, this watch was a gift from my mother, so I didn't buy this myself, but. Once I started making my own money, that's when my interest in watches kind of resurfaced.
Yeah. Because I don't think you've even, or I've ever heard, the backstory from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in
terms of all that.
Yeah, it was dormant for a very, very long time, but I can say definitively that it was my grandfather who initially spurred my interest in watches.
Yeah.
Because we would talk about it when I was younger. I'd always be in admiration of his collection. Ask him to try on his pieces and whatnot. Like 9, 10 years old, and I'm like, Grandpa, can I try on your Speedmaster?
That's awesome.
Yeah. But obviously I didn't have a job back then, so I can't afford any of these things if you don't have a job.
Yeah.
But once I did start making my own money, that's when it popped back into my head, and I started caring about it more.
Yeah, and you eventually just find yourself down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Looking at all the different brands and different models.
Mm-hmm. But it didn't happen overnight. Again, this was my only watch for 7 whole years.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's really cool though.
Yeah. It was my one watch collection. And I just
that's all you needed.
Yeah, it was all I needed. It served every single purpose that I had.
Yeah. That's my favorite one of yours so far.
Yeah. And then after a while, and I said this in another video, but I was super drunk one night I was in Korea with my friends,
Huh.
and I was walking into a bar, and I got my hand caught in the door frame.
Yeah.
And again, being drunk as fuck, I like ripped my hand out of the door frame, and when I checked my watch, you know, reflexively I wanted to check the time. Like 30 minutes later, I realized like, my crown is missing, and I freaked out. So I like ran back
on this one.
Yeah, on this watch, and I ran back outside, and I was like shuffling through the snow with my bare hands, like trying to find the crown.
What the hell?
Yeah, and I found the crown. It was still like, it was dirty as hell because it had been lying in the dirt and the snow for like.
There's no way you found it.
I somehow I did. It was like right outside the doorway.
All drunk the whole time.
Yeah.
That makes
at
perfect
like
sense.
2 a.m. too.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Mhm. The only thing that was illuminating the ground was like a bunch of Christmas lights. And I take the crown and I freaking jam it back into the watch.
Works just like new.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's a really good story.
Yeah.
That is a
So
really
that's
good
why it deserves to be in the collection still, because even after all that, like, it doesn't work as well as it used to.
It's earned its place amongst these other watches. Okay?
Yeah, right? Yeah. 7 years of wear, and then I jam the crown back in, and it still runs like that. That's got to say something.
It's a
you know?
champion of a watch.
Yeah, it's not just a fashion watch now. It's something much more than that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's taken on so much more meaning
Mm-hmm.
with all those stories you have. I like that.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm gonna have to edit that part out. But
Don't die on us.
I'll try not to. But yeah, it's never going anywhere. It's just so sentimental now, and you know, how are you gonna get rid of something that you want, baby? You know?
Yeah.
But enough about that. Let's keep going. This is my Seiko. This is a very recent pickup.
Mm-hmm.
I only got this a few months ago, and
I think I've seen you wear this one.
I've worn this one a couple of times. Mostly though, I took it with me. I took it with me on an operation. I took it to the Philippines, and I wore it there because obviously I have some nicer watches in my collection, which I'll get to. But I needed something that was going to be really reliable, was going to stand up to a lot of abuse, but also was not going to attract too much attention to itself.
Yeah.
And also track 2 time zones. So
I remember you saying that because of the Seiko, you being in the Philippines.
Yeah. I was in the Philippines, and it's the Seiko 5 GMT. So for the audience who's viewing this, you know, I needed a watch that could track multiple time zones, because actually 3, because I needed to track Zulu time when I was making log entries. I needed to track the time back in Hawaii, and then I was also tracking the time in
So
Thailand.
all 3 of these hands are hour hands?
No.
Or
So
how does this work?
So the red hand is the GMT hand, and then you've got your standard hour hand there, and then the minute hand. But you can track the 3rd time zone by rotating the bezel a certain way.
Okay, I got you.
So, and you can see like on the Reha, or like the inner bezel there. They also have the hour markers there. So
okay.
Based on the GMT hand, based off of the inner bezel, it's about 9:09:17 in Bangkok.
Okay.
This is set to Bangkok time, but let's say there's a different time zone that's 2 hours differential from Bangkok.
Yeah.
It's 12:17 in that.
So it's just
place.
based off of where you position the bezel.
Yeah. It all goes off the bezel. So I was tracking Zulu time, Bangkok time, and local time.
That's neat that you can track 3 at once.
Mhm.
Huh. Oh yeah, and it's got the open case back to it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing's neat. How much was this?
It retails at $475, but you just have to look around. You can get it for a discount. I got that for a 25% discount. It was like $375.
Yeah, that is not bad at all.
Yeah, I got it at Macy's at Ala Moana.
I mean, like I said, it might be a little bit big on my wrist, but like for what this is, it's a really good watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, but now that it's that one is kind of like that one is unofficially basically the field watch, because it's very robust, and you know, it can stand up to a lot, just like the Fossil did. But it's made by a true genuine watchmaker.
I was gonna say, if you want to have, like you just said, like a legitimate watch, but still can kind of beat it up a little bit when we're in the field, it's cool to have something like this where you didn't break the bank on it.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, you're looking down, you're like, yeah, I'm wearing a serious watch right now still.
Yeah.
So that's really neat, and the functionality behind it too.
Yeah, it's kind of like to me. It's kind of like the Humvee of watches, you know, or like the Toyota Tacoma of watches.
Yeah.
You know? It's not gonna break the bank if you wreck it. You know, like a mid 2000s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like if you were to crack the case on it, you know, you're like, oh well, this really sucks. But at the end of the day, you didn't spend thousands upon thousands.
Yeah, and you can still take it back to Seiko and get it serviced, and that's not gonna break the bank either, and they'll restore it back to factory condition. Yeah, or as close as possible.
Yeah.
Moving on. So this is going to be the next one. This is my Omega Seamaster. You've seen me wear this before.
Yeah, plenty of times, and I've tried this on before too.
Yeah, this is one of my first luxury watches. I'm going to try and blow through this because this one I've talked about on the channel endlessly. But this one was my very first like luxury watch above $1,000.
Yeah.
And as you can see, like it's super beat up as well, at least on the bracelet.
Serious weight to it.
Yeah, serious weight. And you know, I got it shortly after I PCS'd away from Okinawa. I came back because I was doing some training out there, and they had that watch for well below retail, and I was like, I'll go grab it. I'll pick it up.
May as well.
Yeah.
May as well buy an Omega today.
Yeah. I you know, that watch to me was not only a reminder of like what I had been through in Okinawa and Korea, but also like it was a testament to like the point that I'd reached in life. Like, you know, I can do certain things, and I can afford certain things now that, you know.
So as you're going away, like off of Japan,
pretty much, yeah.
That was the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, and that's the reason it stays around now. And you've seen me take this around before on hikes and stuff, and to the beach.
You took it up Stairway when we went that one time.
I did take it up Stairway to Heaven, and that's a very brutal hike. For anybody that's been to Oahu and climbed Stairway
Literal
to Heaven,
mountain.
Yeah, literal mountain, and like some of the ridges are like this narrow. So
yeah, pretty sketchy.
Yeah, you fall off the side, you're gonna die.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you about it, but one of the times I went, it was like downpouring, raining sideways at those points you were saying.
Oh yeah, I do. I think I do remember that. Yeah,
I had to like get like down on all fours and just like sit in place so I wouldn't get blown off the mountain.
Yeah, it was you and Chastain, right? That were doing it.
Yeah, it was me and him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely pretty sketchy. So check the weather if y'all are ever out here and do that hike.
Yeah. Otherwise, you might actually die. So be careful.
Yeah. Speaking from experience.
Yeah, losing your watch might be the least of your problems.
Yeah.
This is the next most expensive, this is the next tier up.
Yes.
I don't know why we're talking price. But it's the Planet Ocean. It's another Seamaster. You've seen this watch too before.
Mm-hmm.
This one is definitely less beat up. But
it's a very thick case.
Super thick.
Very thick.
This is like
insane.
Yeah. Not that the Diver 300M isn't a serious dive watch, which it is, but that is like a serious dive watch.
Yeah.
Because the amount of water resistance on this is insane. This has got 600 meters of water resistance.
That is nuts.
Yeah. This will go down. This will survive a dive further than you ever will. You know.
So what's the point?
I don't know. I think it was to compete with the Rolex Sea Dweller. Yeah.
Just so Omega could one up them and be like, "Hey, we did it better."
Yeah, probably.
That's good.
But you know, I got it as a closing, as a present to myself for closing on my house, because you know we're filming, like I have a mortgage on this place, and this was just like just to mark the occasion, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm super proud of it and of what it represents. So this is definitely a mainstay in my collection, and I try to like give it as much first time as I can possibly give it, you know, because it can stand up to that. Yeah.
And the depths of that.
Yeah. I'm not a commercial diver. I'm not even a dive certified Marine, but like
we're gonna buy it anyways.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it anyways. Yeah. Next up is gonna be the Datejust. So
one of these two.
Yeah. Next up is the Datejust though. So we were just looking at this earlier.
Yeah.
But This is my Datejust 41 reference.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely
reference
beautiful.
126300.
Yeah.
And it's probably this is definitely the most dressy watch in my collection. As you can see, like based on my collection so far, I'm more of like a tool watch kind of person, and definitely like bracelet.
Definitely stands apart from the rest of the watches you have.
Yeah, this one is in a league of its own for sure. It's just much more refined than the other pieces in my collection, but it also, being a Rolex, is quite capable of standing up to abuse. You know, that's for me. That's just something I feel like I need to have because I'm a very active person, and I do like to wear my watches. You know,
I love this piece so much.
Yeah,
I know
so
it's at the end of the day it's a Datejust, but seeing one and holding one in person, looking at it, you know, through this does no justice to how great a piece like this is.
Yeah, it's just so fantastic, and once you get it on the wrist and you get it in hand, like it kind of like.
That's what I'm saying. You saw me earlier when I first picked it up, and I was sitting over here, and you saw me just a minute ago on this. I'm just sitting there, mindlessly looking at it, you know, because it's really a mesmerizing piece. That's the best word I could put to it.
Yeah. For me, when I want to like feel good and like, you know, and get that extra burst of confidence, like that's the watch that I put on my wrist.
Well, and it's so classic. I mean, it's a Datejust, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know as much as I said just a moment ago, hey, Datejust is the most common Rolex. You cannot go wrong with this piece.
No, you can't.
At all.
It's a no nonsense piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no frills. There's nothing crazy going on there. It's just like it knows what it is.
It's what a watch should look like.
Yes.
That's how I've always viewed these. Whenever I look at a Datejust, I look at it and I'm like, that is pinnacle example of what a watch should be.
It is the archetype.
Exactly.
It is the archetype.
Yeah. I'm very happy you have this.
Thank you. Moving on to now the final watch in my collection. At least the one that is of note. Apple Watch. But this is my Explorer 2 as well. Another Rolex. It's my Explorer 2, and I've worn this on the channel many times now. And it's my first Rolex. Frankly, I think that's the main reason why.
And I remember when you got this too. You brought it in, and I was like, "Oh shit, you got a Rolex now!"
Yeah.
So,
I wore it into the facility one day, and I was like, it's nice, and it's nice without being too nice. Let me just put it on.
Yeah.
And the main reason I did get it, the main reason why I got the Explorer 2, because earlier in the day, I was like, I'd reached the point where I was like, man, I would like to have a Rolex, you know? But I really could not decide on what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted to go straight for the Submariner, because I would like a Submariner one day, but like I couldn't decide if I wanted to go straight for the Submariner or get, there's a 39mm of the Explorer 1.
Yeah.
And I wanted that, but that was like nowhere to be found, because it's also a discontinued model. So I was shopping around at one of the local watch dealers down in Honolulu, one of the secondary market dealers. They've been in business for like 40 years. So they're very reputable. But I was down there, I was talking to them, and then I went over to Tourneau in Waikiki, which is where you got your Nomos, or no, your Hamilton. You got your Hamilton.
That's where the Hamilton was.
Yeah, so I went over there and I spoke to the employees there, and they guided me around, and we were looking at
this wasn't pre-owned?
It is pre-owned.
It is pre-owned?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, whatever judgment people have towards pre-owned, Tourneau, their pre-owned selection is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You can't go wrong with it.
No.
You're going to be saving money, and their pieces are in good quality, very good condition there.
Yeah.
So I have zero judgment towards that. You look at this piece and like, maybe if you want to get like a magnifying glass, you might find a little nick here or there.
All of the scratches that you see on that piece are from me. Like that watch came back from service. So when they got that watch, they immediately sent it off to Rolex for servicing.
Well, and you can hardly tell other than like your standard on the bracelet. So. Yeah.
And I got that watch because it has that second time zone function. The orange hand allows you to track a second time zone. And again, my girlfriend lives in Bangkok, so I'm able to set the the second hour hand to Bangkok time and track the time there.
No.
So it's more, for me, it's more multifunctional than just getting a Submariner or an Explorer 1. And it was
good.
a perfect
It puts purpose behind it for you.
Yeah, perfect meld of form and function.
That's part of why I've always struggled to find a reason to buy, watches with GMT functions and stuff like that. Because if I'm not going to get any use out of it, or even, like dive watches and stuff like that, as much as I know I'm going to end up getting one someday, I'm a very functional kind of individual. Yeah. So it's like, it's good for you that you get the use out of it that this was purpose built for. Yeah. I think it's kind of tacky or gimmicky where you have people that, they'll buy Submariners just because it's a Submariner. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, call me, what is it? Where, call me hypocritical in the sense where I'd say, like, people that are passionate about watches and whatever and know the history and the story behind it, I understand where, like, you'd say you want to go out and buy a Submariner because you understand the watch itself, even if you're not going to dive with it. I'm talking about the individuals that are like, yeah, that's the most popular Rolex that everyone knows. Yeah, the hype collector. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's actually going to be something I want to talk about as we move forward. Now that we've both covered our own watch collections, that took almost a full hour. Only an hour. Yeah, only an hour. To talk about our watches. Pretty quick, right?
Right? Yeah. we just blew through that. Yeah. But all right, I guess we'll start off with a bad collector, and then we'll shift back over to positive and kind of finish off with bad again, for the comedic value. But collectors that are in it for the hype. What's your take on those types of individuals?
I don't have any. I'd say they're misinformed, or they're not taking the time that they should to learn. So for me, part of where it comes to buying each of these watches is, if you're going to spend a substantial amount of money on it, even if it's only just a few $100s, you should look into the brand itself, or the model itself, and know what it is you're getting. And so a lot of these people, they're buying it because of these reasons, just like hype, where there's zero sense of originality to it. Because if everyone knows,
they all have the Submariner, they all have they all have the Daytona.
How many people have these watches I have? That's why I'm proud of the collection I have. Yeah. And I know the story behind each of them and have them for my reasons. Yeah, you gotta find your own path in watch collecting. Yeah, so there's lack of character to individuals like that. Yeah. It sounds very judgmental, and a little bit.
It's okay. We're taking this. This is all lighthearted. For the people that are watching, like, make your own choices and do your own thing in your watch journey.
Of course.
Don't let anything that we're saying or what we're about to say make you feel bad, because our objective here is not to bully anybody, but we're also just trying to call out some behavior that we think needs to be corrected.
For me, at least, in my sake of where I come from as an individual, I'm always going to do my best to know about the history or the model of the watch and know why I'm buying this. Yeah. These are things I value. Yeah.
I bet that most people who buy Submariners have no idea that at one point they were issued to U.S. Navy SEALs.
Yeah, things like that. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to knock on individuals like that, because at the end of the day, it's your money and it's your choice what you do. Yeah.
If you want a sub, if you want a Daytona, go buy it.
For example, I saw this captain that walked into the command deck the other day, and I look at his wrist and I'm like, I can tell that's a nice watch. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a Submariner. Yeah. And of course, I'm still going to compliment him and be like, well, sir, you have a nice watch on. Yeah. And we ended up sitting there talking about watches for 5-10 minutes. Yeah. And because I was wearing my Hamilton, and so we got to talk back and forth about him wearing his Submariner and I wearing this. Yeah. That's the way to do it. That's the way you got to compliment people to, regardless of their motivations for getting it. At a certain point, it comes down to, being respectful and being nice about it. Like, absolutely. You see that watch on the wrist, you're like, hey, bro, nice watch. Yeah, because who am I to know, when someone's wearing a watch, whether or not they bought it purely out of hype train. Everyone bought
Exactly.
it.
Like, I bet that captain probably would have reacted way differently. If
Yeah.
you were like,
If
oh,
I
I
s-
bet you bought that because it only said Submariner on it. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's important that you come from a place of, hey, I want to, share these stories and learn from each other.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of a community like this.
Yeah.
And that's where those conversations start, as
Yeah.
you said.
Maybe that Submariner was a gift from his dad or something.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So,
Let's move on to more positive avenues and talk about some good kinds of collectors. So we'll start off with one you're very familiar with and one that you are, which is the vintage collector.
yeah.
What kind of traits do you feel like embody a vintage collector in general, and what do you respect about them or not respect about them?
I'd say they have a deep-rooted admiration for timeless looks,
Mhm.
and that's more all-encompassing, not just in regards to watches themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're into timeless pieces,
Mhm.
but usually an individual like that is someone who knows how to pursue, the way they carry themselves or dress or certain looks,
Yeah.
that are tried and true and have always looked and will always continue to look good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't go wrong in that route. And it's interesting because in today's time, you see someone who acts like that or carries themselves like that, and you'll say, oh, why are they so dressed up? Why are they acting so fancy?
Yeah. It's kind of a thing of like just having self-respect.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's easy for me to respect an individual who is like that or is into classic watches. Because if I see someone wearing like a really old timepiece, clearly there's a reason why that person's wearing it.
Yeah, they made an informed decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for individuals like that.
Mhm.
Me personally.
Yeah, when I see someone who's wearing a vintage watch, I can tell that they did their research. I can tell that they were meticulous about their decisions. So there's something going on up here.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it before you brought this up, but like there is, if you see someone who's wearing a vintage watch, typically like that watch is also like an accessory to like the rest of the picture.
Absolutely.
Like their outfit and the way they carry themselves,
It's
like
an
you
extension
mentioned,
of who they are.
Yeah, and they know who they are. They know who they are. They know the image that they want to put out into
Exactly.
the world, and their watch helps them personify that.
And you could even tie that into, like the people that we were talking about that just go and buy a watch because everyone else has it.
Mhm.
It's the contra,
Yes.
where you look at them as an individual, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but you look at them and it's like, what sense of character or individuality do they have?
Yeah.
Whereas that watch is less of an extension of them,
Yeah.
but more so, hey, look at my flashy piece.
It's like the guy that you see walking around, or it's like the groups of people that you see walking around Ala Moana with the giant Gucci on their t-shirt
Logos,
and the tie-dye shorts
When you're
with
selling a brand.
with the Louis V sneakers, and then they have an iced out Daytona on their wrist.
Yeah.
Versus, maybe the older gentleman that's wearing he's wearing some dress trousers or some dress pants and a dress shirt, but he's got on a super classic old style Patek Philippe or something like that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know.
I'd want to go and talk to that guy.
Yeah, you want to talk to that guy.
Exactly.
He's probably got more stories than these other types over here do.
Exactly.
But I think that's the most beautiful thing about the vintage watch collectors. They care about history. They care about knowledge and preserving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And that's why I could rant about that forever.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way, and I'm sure you have similar sentiment.
Yeah. If I didn't beat around my watches so badly, then I'd probably have some vintage watches in my collection
Yeah.
too.
Well, hence the reason I told you I only wear, that Omega on
Mhm.
very rare occasions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd say too, even, if you have an older piece like that, it should be almost sacred. It should be almost the kind of thing where you wear it.
Yeah.
When it's a special time.
I think I was having a conversation with my grandfather a few months ago, and he was telling me when I pass on, which I hope that's never anytime soon.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, I love my grandpa to death, but he said he was going to give me his watch collection, and you know, when I get that, like, it's going to mean a lot to me, just because of who owned it, you know.
Well, and everything you were
owned it.
telling me earlier about growing up, and with all, you know, growing up, and that's what got you into watches.
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah. If I wear that, and you know, when I wear those things, and I look at those pieces, you know, I'm going to be able to remember, you know, who my grandfather was, what he stood for.
Through that collection,
Yeah,
you
through
can
that,
see
yeah.
who he. Yeah.
It's not even anymore about the watches at that point. It's about the person that was. It's about the person that
Sentimental, you know, and his sense of character passes down, and that's the beauty of these pieces that last. Is, you know, whether or not you even have children or whoever it may be, it could just be like someone of the younger generation that you're close to, working as a mentor or something. Whoever, it's just amazing how much more a watch can represent past telling time.
Yeah.
You know,
they've lived a life. These vintage watches that are out there, they've lived a life before. And if they could talk, they could probably tell some really amazing stories.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. Let's move on though. So the next collector is going to be methodical collectors, and I think that's both without like, you know,
it's probably
stroking ourselves. Huh?
I was gonna say that's probably me.
Yeah, I think that's.
I never even thought to put that word to it.
Yeah,
but it's definitely the approach I've taken. If you were to put a word to it.
Yeah, methodical. You know, they think about it. They have ideas in their mind of how they want their collection to look.
Yeah,
and then they stick to that. You know, maybe they might go off the grid here and there, but they always have like a kind of a central focus in mind.
Yeah,
you know, and it makes it, for me at least, I see these types of collectors, and they all have like different categories. So some guys are like purely into dive watches. Other guys are purely into like a certain brand, so like be it Rolex or Omega or Swatch.
Yeah.
Other guys are into only dress watches, you know.
Yeah.
But everybody's got a theme going on, and when they stick to that, and you see their collection like laid out, it's just very interesting, and that's what we just had earlier, you know.
Well, I mean, I can see clearly your collection follows a certain kind of style. You know, you like going for GMTs and dives and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my approach was always more so the try and hit every wicket.
Yeah.
You know, but I think just as a more general statement, it's important to be able to sit there and think out your purchase. Like, I've never, you know, shotgun decided to just go out and buy a watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'd say, like, for example, the story behind this one was, I told you I was looking for a date just for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I just need to wait a little bit longer, save up some more money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ran across this model. So in the sense of, I already knew what I was pursuing, what kind of watch I was trying to get.
Yeah. And
then the only spur of the moment aspect is I found this, called their boutique, and was like, hey, do you have this reference number?
Yeah.
And when they said yes, I was like, okay, I'll buy it.
It was meant to be. Yeah.
You know, so something like that. But at the same time, there's still preemptive thought put behind it.
Yeah, it's got to be premeditated, especially if you're you know, maybe a bit more limited in your resources than other people, like, because we're in the military, you know, like we don't get paid a lot.
Yeah.
But we get paid enough to fund this hobby of ours, and with that there are considerations that, you know, we need to take in. Like, okay, I can't buy every single watch that I want, but I can.
How can you make this work?
Yeah, I can make this work if I put a little more thought into it. So what are my left and right, you know, lateral limits?
Yeah.
If you will. Yeah. And I think that's where being a methodical collector really helps. You know, having a focus that helps you save money, but it also then allows you to operate within that focus and build a beautiful collection.
Definitely.
All right, let's move on. Sorry, I keep these notes up. All right, now this is going to be on the total opposite end of the spectrum, but this is going to be the guy that collects randomly. And I think the only disadvantage to being this kind of collector is that you need to have a big fat wallet if you want to be this kind of collector.
Well,
but I've seen it out there.
That's kind of like what I was just describing, where you do just pull the trigger on random items.
Yeah, sometimes I've seen it, you know, with you know, people on social media, like they'll just be like, I'll take that, that too, you know.
I mean, that'd be nice. I wish I had the luxury and, like you said, the money laying around to just go out.
I think
that'd be my dream.
Yeah.
But
right. Yeah.
It's
everybody's dream.
That's clearly out of reach unless you're a very wealthy millionaire.
Yeah. I think the prime example of this individual is Kevin O'Leary. You know him, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Kevin O'Leary is the prime example of this guy. Like, he just loves watches of all kinds and all price points. Like, he obviously started out high end. You know, sticking to Patek Philippe and Rolex and those brands, you know? Yeah. But at the same time, like, whenever he hangs out with Teddy Ballester, like, you can see that he has an appreciation for brands of all levels. Mm-hmm. And every now and then he'll go and he'll, like, pull the trigger on a watch that is a bit more, like, affordable, on the affordable end. And then he'll make it his own.
Well, part of that even stemmed from in making videos with Teddy Baldessar.
Yeah.
Where he's like, hey man, I know you like to spend thousands of dollars and buy this flashy stuff.
Yeah.
There's a deeper appreciation for watches.
Let me open your eyes.
Yeah.
And it was successful. Like, in that sense, Teddy, you know, kind of did what he set out to. He accomplished what he set out to.
Yeah.
Know? Yeah. And, you know, at that point, like, you can see, like, this transformation in Kevin O'Leary. Like, you know, he obviously still loves the high-end pieces, but, like, now he loves all kinds of watchmaking from all levels.
More well-versed.
Yeah.
You know, wider appreciation, as you would put it, for all different types of watches.
And I think that's the best way to be. You know, if you can afford that kind of thing, to just, you know, be kind of cavalier about it, then it's good to just have an appreciation for watchmaking at all price tiers.
Yeah.
You know, and be a bit more unrestricted, you know, in your tastes.
Yeah.
Be open to everything. Be open-minded.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I would have tons and tons of money just laying around
Yeah.
that I could just blow on whatever I'd like.
Yeah.
In regards to watches,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, tying in with everything we've been talking about, I think there'd still be a sense of quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of, like, I'm not just going to go out and buy it for the sake of buying it.
No.
It'd just be nice having that peace of mind that I don't have to look at my checkbook and wonder, like, oh, can I afford this, like, this really nice Vacheron? You know, I could just go out and pick it up and be like, oh, I've always fancied one of these.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that would be something.
So that's kind of where my perception of people like that are. But I mean, I totally get your point where that individual definitely exists. You know, that really rich, you know, young millionaire person that's like, well, I just have the money, so screw it. Let's just go out and buy all these pieces. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, different things to lay out in regards to it.
Yeah, you can't escape if you're going to have that kind of mentality. You cannot escape the fact that you need to have a big fat wallet. But
definitely.
It's definitely nice to, you know, to go out there and look at everything and just not be affected by the price tag. You know, whether it's a really, really nice Vacheron or a really, really cheap Swatch. You know. Yeah. Yeah. You know, you just love it all. You love it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Someday, I hope to live in a world where the money can just disappear. I can just go pick it out. Yeah. You know, but the quality will still exist in terms of, you know, better watch versus less.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so let's go back to, now that we got all that, you know, happy-go-lucky stuff out of the way. Yeah. Let's talk about, you know, types of watch enthusiasts we absolutely hate. And I can see you're looking at it right now. But yeah, the first kind of bad watch enthusiast I want to talk about
this is good.
Is going to be it's going to be flippers.
Only in the hobby. Okay, so all right, flippers, right?
Yeah.
You know what this makes me think of is all of those like YouTube shorts you'll see, or all those YouTube channels where it's, you know, for lack of a better word, you'll have like douchey kind of characters that they're working in New York, you know, in New York City, and their whole shtick, the whole point behind their videos is like throwing up price tags, and it's like, I bought this for $5, I'm gonna sell it for $55. That's $500, and then I gotta walk down the street to go do it again and again and again. And my whole life is walking around selling all these watches, buying and selling. And there's a lot of these channels now that have popped
there's so
up
many
that I've seen where I'm just like, it's exactly what you're saying. These people could give less of a shit about watches themselves. You know, sure, they might be knowledgeable.
Yeah, their knowledge is definitely up there. They kind of have
for the sake of their job.
Yeah, for the sake of like being able to know what the price is, know the value. They will have up to that, you know, required knowledge on it. But they don't care about it. You know, they don't care about the watch itself.
There's
they just
no
care about how
passion.
valuable it is.
There's no passion. It's a money drive. You know, it's opposite to what we were just speaking on, where it's like, I don't care about the money. You know, we talk about these watches, and some of these are really, really expensive. Right? It's not about money at all. It's about passion in the watch itself. And what these represent.
And what it means.
Exactly. Whereas these individuals are the complete antithesis. Of that. All they care about is how they can make their next buck. So I don't like those people.
You know, one of the first.
And they screw up the market of watches too. It drives prices up. So people like us who are like, all right, as much as I say it's not about money, money's a thing.
Money is a thing.
You know what I mean?
We don't get paid a lot, so it's like
I'm not trying to have these people cause the secondhand market of pre-owned watches to cost, you know, 20, 30, 40% more than it needs to because of their own financial gain. That's the douchiness.
In 2023, a Rolex Daytona still costs double what it does at retail on the gray market. You know? And you're not, unless you're fucking loaded, you're not gonna get one. You know?
No, exactly.
And it's all thanks to flippers. It's all thanks to flippers.
I'm getting like flashes of all those dudes in those videos I see online where it's like, and that's the annoying part about it too, is it's like a virus almost, where these guys, you know, one guy's doing it, and then the next few are like, oh, I can turn a profit off of making YouTube videos about that too. Oh, let me go do that now. You know, so
I think it is starting to cool down a little bit, at least, because you know, back when COVID was a bit more of a thing, and people were still getting like paychecks here and there. You know, mid 2022, everybody was going crazy for watches. You know, like people that otherwise couldn't have given two shits about watches were just like buying them left and right, flipping them. Like, hey babe, if I get this Daytona at retail, I can sell it for like, you know, $50,000. But you know, now they can't, you know, do that, and the margins are a bit tighter. So you know, now more people are having to reconsider whether or not this is actually a smart thing to do financially. But there are still dealers out there that, like, established dealers that are going to continue like to flip watches and whatnot. And I don't think those guys are going to go away. But like for your average dude, like
and there's a difference between, you know, a jeweler or like a certified like Torno, as we've been speaking about, where they've been in this business for a long time, they're very well established. Versus, you know, these quick buck individuals that go store to store, trying to buy and sell on these little in-person markets.
And
those are
dudes,
two
like,
very different worlds.
And there's no QC with these guys either. Like for the most part, like those are private individuals who are buying from the ADs, if they're lucky, if they can even have that kind of relationship. And then they go and flip the watch, but you don't, like, if they bought the watch pre-owned, then you have no idea like what kind of service history has gone on with that. You don't know if there's been defects, or like you don't know if the dial's been swapped out. You know, if that's something you care about, like if you want.
And that's a big deal to me too. Is what you say about quality control, but just in general, knowing the background of your products, because that exists too. We haven't even touched on it, but like the whole aspect of, you got watches that are faked, you know, stuff like that. So I'm very big on making sure that what I get is authenticated and real. You know, the only one I ever really had that deal with was the Omega, the first one I bought. Which, I mean, obviously it's at your own discretion. You're going to want to make sure that the person you're buying it from is a trusted seller. But I'd never want to buy a watch from one of those guys. Ever.
If you do buy a watch, like, not saying that's all gray market dealers, but for the most part, you want to make sure that if you are going to go on the secondary market, that whatever dealer you have has some sort of like authentication service. to
Absolutely.
them. Yeah. That way you know like what you're getting is legit.
Don't buy from eBay.
eBay's
Don't buy
probably
from eBay.
yeah, eBay's probably the worst. Worst place to go looking for freaking watches.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think we've beat up flippers enough.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna have anything good
Yeah.
to say about them.
Actually, I have one last thing to say about flippers. When I was before I got the Datejust, when I was meeting my AD for the first time and talking to her, and we were discussing what watches I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that Rolex kind of wants you to build up a purchase history is because they want to make sure that you're not a flipper.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure that if they sell you something, you're not going to turn around and try and flip it.
Yeah.
Because if they gave out Daytonas to every person who asked, not that they even have that many to give out, but if they gave out Daytonas and Submariners to every single person who asked, then at least half of them would probably try and go flip that for a profit. So that's why they want people to build up a purchase history and then come back to the authorized dealer wearing those same watches, so that they know that those watches could have gone to the final purchaser.
It's insane to even think that now that should be something of concern for a brand like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I could be completely wrong in this assumption, but I would like to think that, going back into the past, if someone had the privilege of going into a Rolex store and saying, hey, I'd like to buy a watch, there was trust already established, in that, hey, we're decent individuals, clearly you're not trying to buy our nice watch just for the sake of reselling it. So to think that things like that even exist nowadays is kind of a pity.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
But
you have to establish that rapport with them now, because
yeah,
that's just the reality of the situation that we're in. Authorized dealers have been taken advantage of by these types of individuals, and we as the customer,
it doesn't come as much surprise.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense. It's just wild to see that be a thing.
But if you at the end of the day, if you go in and you're genuine about who you are and why you want the watch, and you can put your best foot forward for your AD.
Well, and people can pick up. Yeah,
and they can pick up on that. Yeah, just like you were about to say. They can pick up on whether or not you're being genuine.
Exactly. You can smell out the rats.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, that was the last thing I had to say about flippers. So
now
we're moving on.
We're making a movie, okay?
Yeah, right. we're almost at 2 hours now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do some crazy editing. But yeah, so this one I called My Way or the Highway. And I have another friend. He's into watches too. And his name is Bronson. I saw his collection. He also had some pieces actually that was similar to yours. He had another vintage Omega. He had a Longines. And I wouldn't wear any of them, but you have to appreciate again the sentimental value and just the kind of the heritage that comes along with those pieces and those types of brands and there are watch collectors out there there are people in the watch community out there that just don't understand that concept. They can't see past their own preferences, and that's what I'm trying to drive at here. This collector, they talk trash on anything that doesn't suit them. So
lack of open-mindedness.
Yeah, it's a lack of open-mindedness.
That's all it is, really. I mean, for me personally, I think it's important for all individuals to at least strive to be well-rounded. As I said earlier, my whole collection is based on the idea of being well-rounded.
Yeah. And
seeing all aspects of it. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with someone who has preference.
No.
Or says oh, I only like this type, or say your profession, requires a certain type of watch. It makes perfect sense why that's all you would get. But at the same time, to do what you're saying, turn it into a more negative light, and now you're bashing someone for choosing to. Well, I mean, it's not that they're really bashing someone who's doing that, but it sounds almost like defensive.
Yeah.
To be defensive in the aspect of, oh, this is all I've ever known, This is all I'm ever gonna get. You know, it's ignorant.
I think the most common form of that, I think the most common form of this kind of ignorance is like when it comes to mainstream watch collectors reacting to micro brands. Like what is it? That's a good example.
Movement or whatever.
Movement's not really a micro brand. They're more of a fashion watch brand. Have you ever heard of Sangan Instruments?
No.
Okay, well they're a micro brand, and they are owned and operated by 2 Marine Raiders. So they're really right up our alley.
Okay.
They're owned and operated by 2 Marine Raiders, and they make all of their watches. Not in-house, but they have a team of watchmakers on hand that assemble everything in the USA, and they use like certified self-regulated Swiss movements. So some of their watches are accurate to like plus or minus 0 or plus or minus 5 seconds a day.
Yeah.
And like these watches are super high quality, but people will dismiss that brand because maybe they don't obviously don't have any heritage, or at least not as much as a more established brand like Rolex, or Omega. But it's like you're closing yourself off at that point to what could otherwise be a really eye-opening experience, So I think that the way to beat this mindset is to have an open mind, to be willing to expose yourself to everything that's out there, and then establishing preferences.
It's hard because I'm trying to find more depth and length at which to go in talking about this, but I mean, it really, if you want to boil it down and simplify it, it does come down to that, where it's all right, I could better relate it to, you either have the passion for it or you don't. Because when I first got into watches, it was like I knew sitting there. But what I knew was that I didn't know anything in regards to this world, and I was like, if I ever walk into a store, that's selling these fancy watches and these Omegas and these Rolexes and stuff like that, I don't want to be the ignorant guy that's sitting there not having a clue what any of this is, and is like, oh yeah, these are cool, fancy, expensive watches.
Yeah. How long does the battery last?
Something like that. And that's where I'm saying it's a difference where that sparks a passion for me in terms of I want to learn everything I can and be as knowledgeable as possible, learn about all these brands, figure out about their history. Say I'm going to buy a piece, let me learn about that brand heavily. Yeah. But at the same time, that's what differentiates someone who isn't as invested. There's nothing wrong with picking a certain brand. That's why brand ambassadors exist. Yeah. Because it's like, hey, I rep this because it's mine. If you take it in the direction of you're saying like, oh, well, they suck, I think that's ignorant.
Yeah,
and wrong.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I mean, in conclusion, if we were to all encompass my attitude towards it, it's like I'm never going to have any issue towards anyone who doesn't care about something like watches, because it's clearly a niche passion that isn't for everyone. No. And it can be an expensive hobby. Yeah. But if you're getting into it, I would hope it comes from a place of genuineness and all the things I just stated, and wanting to learn and know about, the mechanics and the histories and movements, and brands, all of that.
And you could even say like, I just want it. Someone could say like, I just want to get one watch and be done with it. I don't care about all that stuff. Yeah. But even then, even if you're only going to get one watch,
pick the right watch.
Yeah, pick the right one. Do your research. Have an open mind, like we keep saying, and then make an informed decision about which watch it is that you want. Definitely. And understand what brands are available to you, so that you can make the best decision financially. Yeah.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So let's move on to the last point here, and talk about this guy, Watch Snob. So we're taking this like my way or the highway guy a step further, and now we're just talking about like straight up watch snobs in general. So, there's something I've noticed. There's something I've noticed with people, especially those, if you poke around on Instagram, especially, like you see those posts on Instagram where it's like they're flashing like a really limited like Patek or like a really limited Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every now and then you'll be scrolling through those comments and you'll see like, oh, this is trash, or oh, this is garbage. I don't know why you'd pay for that. You know, or even worse, like with like Omega or Hamilton. You know, like you see people insulting these other brands all the time, like this is trash. You know, if you just save it more, you could get a Rolex. You know, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I think that this kind of individual is probably
It's an immature mindset to come from.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, for myself, and the sake of it, like as I was telling you earlier, I had always wanted to get a Datejust.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like I think that's a fantastic goal for anyone.
Yeah.
To want to say like, hey, I own this, and that's why I'm so happy you have that.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a difference in terms of, oh, I want to get this just because it's like, this just represents, hey, I had a lot of money at one point,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
bought this really expensive thing.
Yeah, and I'm better than you because I have this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, everything I was just talking about, you know, if I took the time to learn and pursue a genuine passion in
Mhm.
this and collect properly, I could have, and I have, used the money I would have spent on a Datejust to buy this whole collection right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is worth a hell of a lot more to me
Mhm.
in terms of what these all represent and mean to me. And they're all genuinely quality watches to me and what they are.
Yeah.
Than if I were to just go and get some one-off Rolex for the sake of, you know, an
Yeah.
immature attitude that I may have had, or well, I'll admit did have when I was younger,
Mhm.
and thinking like, if I just get that someday,
Yeah.
that's all I need.
Mhm.
You know, but obviously, you know, you grow up and form a better attitude. But as you're saying, you know, with a character like that, a watch snob, there's plenty of people out there that exist like that.
Yeah.
You know, where they're driven by, you know, their money and wealth and status, and that's all they care about.
Yeah, that's the only thing that matters to them. They don't care about why, you know, they don't care about the reasons why these brands are what they are.
Yeah.
They just care about what having the brand says about them. You know?
Well, it's what you were saying a while back about, you know, the individuals that walk around the mall with the Gucci shirts on.
Yeah.
It's like, I guarantee you they could care less about what Gucci as a brand is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and honestly, that's what's disappointing about some of these brands, is when they sell themselves short and
Mhm.
buy into it. To
Mhm.
me, that's where they would lose their value.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that with the watch world compared to the fashion world, it's not nearly as bad.
Yeah,
Watches,
and there's more residuals
Yeah.
left over. You know?
yeah, watches have always kind of retained, at least I'm talking in regards to the brands themselves.
Mhm.
They've seen all this like fast fashion, flashy, you know, stuff for like high fashion
Yeah.
companies where they
Mhm.
really sell themselves short. And
Yeah,
just
they're
make-
updating their catalogs year after year, like constantly like emptying their collections and burning their clothes. But with watches, like that doesn't really happen as much. You don't see that as much. Like those watches are there to stay. Like there are items in their catalogs that will remain for decades. You know, just
yeah.
look at the Submariner. Like yeah, it's had its design updates, but it's basically stayed the exact same for its entire life, and it's been around for almost 70 years.
And they don't really watch companies, at least in my opinion, don't really pander to the whole advertising to the consumer and doing anything just to rope a consumer and get them to pull the trigger
Yeah.
on an item.
Yeah.
You know, obviously with any business, there's going to be some degree of that, but comparatively to the mass consumerism that we see with our society now,
Mhm.
watch companies that are selling these high quality products that are made to last a lifetime,
Yeah.
they know the consumer will come and buy it eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
consumer is drawn to them because of what they stand for and what they represent.
Yeah.
And that's what pulls me in, and I would think pulls you in too towards something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, so it's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because one thing that I find troubling with Omega is that they hold on, they hold on so tightly to the James Bond connection.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
when, you know, like, if you're not a James Bond fan, or even if you're like only mildly a James Bond fan, like I'm only mildly a James Bond fan. I like his movies. I pretty much admire Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, and that's really about it for me.
Yeah.
And like the fact that there's a connection between James Bond and Omega, like in the past that that kind of did something for me, but now it's like
Don't care.
seems don't care. Seems kind of juvenile. You
Yeah.
know? And when Omega constantly like tries to shove that down your throat, and it's just like, all right, you're starting to lose me. You're starting to lose me. Because I know Omega has a history. They have a very, very long history that they are well aware of. And like if you look through Omega's catalogs, they talk about it. Like they have actual watches that were issued to like real members of the military, like the SBS, the SAS, and they issued watches to all the members of the British Ministry of Defense throughout their history. That's kind of how James Bond and his connection to Omega came about.
Yeah.
It wasn't just through the marketing, but it was through actual like real life history. And I wish that at least Omega specifically would lean into that more than they do, like
rather than the image of, hey, the next James Bond's coming out. Throw out these poster boards.
Yeah, some spy or whatever. Yeah. Some fictional character. But that's just one small thing. Omega as a whole is still does a lot of great stuff.
I totally see what you mean in regards to that, though. Because think about that for the sake of going forward into the future. Imagine if that becomes their only thing.
Yeah.
If that becomes the only thing that they use as their draw or appeal or allure is, hey, we got James Bond. What if no one cares about James Bond?
Yeah.
20 years from now.
Yeah.
What's that say about Omega if they banked all of what they represent on their ties to it? So it's important that you stand for landmarks in terms of history and what you stand for. Obviously, it's getting repetitive at this point.
Yeah.
But tenets like that cannot be expressed enough in their level of importance in regards to all this.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that the worst part about being a watch snob, honestly, is that like if you're a watch snob, then you just don't care about any of that stuff at all.
They wouldn't take the time to invest in a conversation like this in regards to any of it. It's purely for image, which is something I personally hate. I can't stand it when people are, because there's no genuine sense of self or individual or character coming from someone like that.
Yeah,
you can see right through it. It's a facade.
It's all self-centered. It's all like about what this watch says about me.
Yeah.
And how it makes me different from you. Because you're lesser than me.
Yeah, and I've never liked that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can sit here and easiest example is my collection versus your collection. That's the very key difference between individuals like that. Where if you were that individual that had that horrible attitude, you would look at my collection and be like, well, it's not worth nearly as much.
Yeah.
Because clearly I can look at your watches and see you spent quite a bit more than me.
Yeah.
But the reason we're able to like bond so well and have this great conversation is because I have a genuine appreciation for your collection and what they represent, void of price tag.
Yeah.
And you have a genuine appreciation of mine, also void of price tag.
Yeah, I freaking love your watches.
And for what they represent.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And that's what a community like this is all about, is it's not about money. And I've said this before, it's not about that at all. It's about sitting here bonding over something like this and being communal and saying like, hey, check out this.
A watch snob is just simply not capable. A watch snob is simply incapable of having a talk like this because they will as soon as they see that moon swatch, they're just gonna be like, oh,
it's prejudiced.
Yeah, they're just gonna look at you and be like,
I wouldn't want to sit down and talk with someone like that. I mean, I'm sure I'd try and reason with them and probably have some sort of sway.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to sit there and be ignorant in life, then go right ahead, I'll just keep carrying on doing my thing. Yeah,
it's those people just, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They close themselves off to these new experiences.
They're limiting their vision. Yeah. They got horse blinders on, They can't enjoy, the beauty that is all of this.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, this is the best thing about, I think the best thing about watches is that it is a community. As we've been touching on it. It is a community. It is open to, it's open to discovery. But if you're a watch snob and you are making judgments about people's self-worth based on the kind of watches that they choose to wear, you will shut that off so quickly, and people will just hate you in the end, you know, because you can't look at people for who they are and appreciate what, you know, their life story and what they've been through and what their watches mean. You only see the watches and you only see the price tags and you zero in on that, and it's just like so limited, such a limited mindset.
And what I think too is, as like kind of the final point is, for the sake of, if there was any message I'd want to get across to anyone that's like just getting into watches, it would be to develop that attitude of that it's not about price tags or money, it's about genuine passion in it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a niche community for that very reason. You know, there's a lot of money that goes into watches.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars
No.
to get a really expensive watch. You can get into this hobby on a very low budget.
Yeah, this freaking Seiko and this G-Shock right here are prime examples.
Yeah.
Like, these,
fantastic watches.
yeah, these are awesome. And so is that Moon Swatch, you know, like, let's get that up real quick again.
Yeah.
Like, this Moon Swatch is just, it's awesome. You know, like, it's fun, it's casual, it's cool looking, like, and it's fairly cheap too. And
Exactly.
It's fairly affordable.
All in all, you're not going to be breaking the bank on something.
Yeah, and if people see you with this on, and you know they know, and they're not a watch snob, you know, if they see that with this on, they're gonna like it. You know, they're gonna you know, give you that nod, like, you know, like that look, like, I see you. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be my, if we were to start closing things up, that would be my closing point. You know, to people curious about watches or getting into it, is don't have that attitude of, one, it's something that you can't get into because of money. You know, you can find your entry into it. Yeah. It's definitely doable. I didn't always have a lot of money lying around. You know, I never expected to be wearing a fancy watch like this.
Yeah. I never thought I'd be able to get my watch collection either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how passion works. You pursue it, you know, and if you, I've been reiterating it time and time now, but if you come from a place of genuine sincerity in your heart and know this is something I enjoy, you know, a community like this and a conversation like this and a collection like this, all of these things will follow naturally. That's just the natural order of it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a point that can be overstated at all. You got to come from a place of passion and true appreciation. Absolutely. You absolutely have to. To that, I would add that you have to be humble. You know, just because you may wear a certain watch on your wrist doesn't make you better than, you know, anybody else that's out there. Definitely. You know, truly it's about living a good life and being a good person that helps other people and is you know, genuinely compassionate and is open to learning. And then, you know, as you wear that watch and go through life with that kind of attitude, you imbue it with the kind of memories and sentimentality that we've been talking about this whole time. Yeah. And that's when that watch truly becomes a treasure and not just some commodity to be purchased. You know? So that's really it for this video. I thank you, Adam, for coming on and talking fantastic. About this with me, dude.
It was a whole podcast.
Absolutely.
We made a whole legit movie.
I don't know how I'm actually going to edit this thing because it's so long now, but I'm gonna figure it out.
You didn't expect it to take this long, did you?
No, I didn't. I thought it was just going to be like, you know, 20 minutes, we get up and then we like go freaking do something else, but...
No, we haven't sat down and talked like this in a while, so
yeah,
that was good.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Adam.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Good. Alright, now let's see if I can click this off. There we go.